We have overflow in room 263 if it's needed.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting of March 31st, 2015. And if you can't find a seat here in the chamber, we have an overflow room in room
263.
263. At this time, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Avalos. Avalos present. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Campos. Campos present. Supervisor Christensen.
Present.
Christensen present. Supervisor Cohen.
Here.
Cohen present. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell present. Supervisor Kim.
Present.
Kim present. Supervisor Marr. Marr not present. Supervisor Tang.
Present.
Tang present. Supervisor Wiener.
Present.
Wiener present. Supervisor Yee. Yee not present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President. We have two communications dated March 31st, one from Supervisor Marr and one from Supervisor Yee, indicating they will not be able to attend the board meeting today and request to be excused from the meeting.
Okay, is there a motion to excuse Supervisor Marr and Supervisor Yee? Motion by Supervisor Campos, seconded by Supervisor Avalos. Without objection, those two are excused. Okay, and colleagues, before we move on, Supervisor Christensen, I see you on the roster. Supervisor Christensen?
Sorry?
Did you have any comments? Your name is on the roster?
No, I don't.
Okay. Colleagues, are there any changes to the February 24th board meeting minutes? Seeing no changes, is there a motion to approve? Motioned by Supervisor Farrell, seconded by Supervisor Campos. Without objection, those meetings will be approved after the minutes.
Public comment.
After public comment. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item?
Item 1 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to establish the Balboa Reservoir Community Advisory Committee to advise the board and the mayor and city departments regarding any proposed development under the Public Land for Housing program and setting forth the membership and duties of the advisory committee.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
On item 1, Supervisor Wiener. Aye. Wiener, aye. Supervisor Avalos.
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Supervisor Christensen.
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. There are 9 ayes.
Okay, this item is finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item?
Item 2 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to identify members of the Retiree Healthcare Trust Fund Board as city officers, providing the members with health insurance coverage, and to exclude any retiree healthcare trust fund contract from the provisions of the Administrative Code, Section 21.02.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, this ordinance is passed unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 3, resolution to authorize the Adult Probation Department to submit a grant proposal for the Proud Parenting Program administered by the Board of State and Community Corrections.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 4, resolution to authorize the Fire Department to accept a gift of one Gibbs Quadski XL from the Mr. Mark Benioff, valued at approximately $50,500 for use by the Fire Department for marine operations.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 5, resolution to authorize the Police Department to accept a gift of one Gibbs Quadski XL from Mr. Mark Benioff, valued at approximately $50,500 for use by the Police Department Marine Unit.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 6 is a resolution to approve an airport contract for project management support services for the San Francisco International Airport Terminal 1 New Boarding Area B project between T1 Cubed, a joint venture consisting of Parsons, Brinkerhoff, and AGS Inc., and the city in a not-to-exceed amount of $29 million with a 6-year contract duration.
Same House, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 7, please.
Item 7 is a resolution to approve an airport contract for project management support services for the Terminal 1 Center renovation project at the International Airport between ACJV joint venture and the city in the not-to-exceed amount of $23 million with a contract duration of 5 years.
Same House, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 8, please.
Item 8, resolution to authorize the General Manager of the Public Utilities Commission to execute an amendment to the Water Enterprise Water System Improvement Program funded agreement with Black & Veatch Corporation to provide ongoing construction management support for the Calaveras Dam Replacement Project, increase the agreement by $29.5 million for a new not-to-exceed agreement amount of $68 million and a contract extension for up to 2 years and 10 months for a total agreement duration of 8 years and 10 months.
Same House, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 9, please.
Item 9, resolution to authorize the General Manager of the Public Utilities Commission to execute Amendment Number 2 to the New Irvington Tunnel Project Construction Management Services Agreement with Hatch Mott McDonald to continue providing construction management services for the construction of the tunnel, increasing the agreement by $2 million for a total not to exceed $19.5 million, an extension of 1 year for a total agreement duration of 7 years.
Same House, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 10, please.
Item 10 is a resolution to approve the contract with Cypress Security to provide armed and unarmed security services with the Metropolitan Transportation Association in an amount approximately $38.3 million for a 3-year term and a 3-year option.
Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, President Breed. So based on some of the controversies surrounding this contract that continues to swirl around this contract, would like to continue this to the April 14th Board of Supervisors meeting.
Supervisor Avalos has made a motion to continue to the April 14th board meeting. It's seconded by Supervisor Farrell. Without objection, this item is continued to the April 14th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 11?
Item 11 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Department of Public Health to accept and expend an approximate $348,000 grant from Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration for a mentoring and peer support project program for the period of September 30th, 2014 through September 29th, 2015, and waiving any indirect costs.
Same House, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, item number 12.
Item 12 is an ordinance to amend the police code to prohibit discrimination against residents or patients at long-term care facilities on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, to provide aggrieved persons with the right to seek investigation and mediation by the Human Rights Commission, as well as a private right of action, and to impose treble damages on violators.
Supervisor Weiner.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this legislation, which is co-sponsored by myself and Supervisor Campos, is the first item coming before us based on the recommendations of the LGBT Aging Task Force. Colleagues, our LGBT senior population is growing in San Francisco. This is a good thing. For many years, we had too many LGBT people who were not making it to their senior years given the HIV/AIDS epidemic. We now have a community where people are living longer, and that is a very, very good thing. It also creates challenges. We have many challenges around seniors in general in terms of making sure that people are able to live in dignity and are able to remain part of our community. But there are also some very specific challenges that LGBT seniors face. LGBT seniors are less likely to have adult children to help care for them. They are more likely to not be near their biological family where they were born and where they were raised. They are more likely to have gone through life with some degree of stigma and alienation and having experienced discrimination. And so we need to make sure that we are taking into account the specific needs of our LGBT seniors and treating them with complete respect and embracing them as a community. In 2012, we passed legislation to create the LGBT Aging Task Force. That task force did terrific work over about a 1.5 year period and produced a very, very powerful report outlining the needs of the community of LGBT seniors and making a number of recommendations for the Board of Supervisors and for city departments to take to address those needs. And this is the first item, not the last, but definitely the first. This legislation is a Bill of Rights for LGBT residents of long-term care facilities, whether a nursing home, an assisted living facility, or other long-term care facility. It will put into place very specific protections for LGBT seniors. While it is currently illegal under state law in general to discriminate against LGBT seniors, this law will put into place some much more specific requirements and prohibitions to make sure that these facilities, as well as the seniors and their family, understand what is expected of facilities that are working with LGBT seniors. The legislation will do a number of things. For example, it will require facilities to designate an LGBT liaison who will undergo appropriate periodic training. It will require facilities to respect residents' wishes to be addressed in the pronoun of their choice. It will allow requests by 2 residents to share a room and will forbid the involuntary room reassignment of a resident as a result of another resident complaining about that resident's sexual orientation or gender identity. It will require access to appropriate medical care specific to an LGBT resident's needs. It will require that residents be allowed to use restrooms available to other residents of the same gender identity. And those are just a few of the requirements in this legislation. The legislation will provide aggrieved persons with the right to seek investigation and mediation by the Human Rights Commission, and the HRC will publish a manual to assist facilities in complying with the new law. And the legislation will create a private right of action so that individuals are able to enforce their rights under this legislation. The legislation is designed not only to protect our LGBT seniors, but to give them the tools they need to advocate for themselves and for their family members to advocate. I want to note that we have received strong support for the legislation, including the National Center for Lesbian Rights, the Transgender Law Center, Lambda Legal, the National Center for Transgender Equality, Forge Transgender Aging Network, Open House, the ACLU of Northern California, California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, and Justice in Aging. I also want to really thank the LGBT Aging Task Force for its tremendous work, both during its existence and the formulation of its report, and in following up and working with myself and Supervisor Campos and others to move these recommendations forward. I want to particularly thank and acknowledge Daniel Redmond, who did an enormous amount of work around this legislation. Colleagues, this is first of its kind, groundbreaking legislation, and I urge your support. And I want to also just thank Adam Taylor in my office for his work around the legislation.
Thank you, Supervisor Weiner. Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, this ordinance is passed on the first reading. Madam Clerk, can you call the next item?
Item 13 is an ordinance to amend the Transportation Code to prohibit drivers of tour buses not regulated as passenger, stage corporations, or charter party carriers from narrating while driving, and to affirm the Planning Department's determination under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, President Bree. The author of this ordinance is not here today, and we excused him earlier. We'd like to continue this item to next meeting, April 7th, for his return.
Okay, Supervisor Avalos has made a motion to continue this item to the
April 7th?
April 7th, 2015. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Campos. Without objection, item number 13 is continued to our next board meeting on April 7th. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 14?
Item 14 is a resolution to receive and approve the annual reports for the Greater Union Square Business Improvement District for fiscal years 2010 through 2014.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 15 is a resolution to receive and approve the annual report for the Fisherman's Wharf Community Benefit District and Fisherman's Wharf Portside Community Benefit District for fiscal years 2013 through 14.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 16, please.
Item 16 is a resolution to determine that the transfer of a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine license from 4555 California Street to 1475 Polk Street to King Chan for the Golden Veggies Market will serve the public convenience.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 17, please.
Item 17 is a resolution to support the Garawan farm workers, their right to be represented by the United Farm Workers, and to urge Garawan Farming to implement the terms of their contract.
Supervisor Campos.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Today is a very special day. Today we are celebrating the birthday of the great Cesar Chavez, who was born 88 years ago. And it is my honor today to be the author of this resolution. It's a very simple and basic resolution that goes to the heart of what Cesar Chavez was fighting for, which is simply that farm workers be given the dignity and respect that every worker and every human being deserves. In 1990, farm workers at Garawan Farms voted for representation by the United Farm Workers in a state-conducted secret ballot election. The Agricultural Labor Relations Board then certified the United Farm Workers as the Farm Workers Union representative. For 23 years now, Garawan has made various efforts to prevent the implementation of that contract. As a result, in 2013, UFW invoked California's mandatory mediation law, and a state-appointed mediator subsequently issued a 3-year contract which included retroactive wage increases and holiday compensation that was to take place immediately. But to date, in 2015, this company has failed to pay the workers the increased wages. The agricultural industry has consistently taken an obstructionist stance towards employee rights here in California, and Garawan Farms is currently using some of the worst tactics that you can see to bust this union. And if there's any question about how far they're willing to go, I think that many of you received the emails that provided a lot of false information. This company has employed right-wing groups like Grover Norquist Center for the Worker Freedom to launch a media campaign on behalf of Garawan Farms. These groups, funded in part by the Koch brothers, seek to use Garawan Farms as an example against employee organizing efforts. They want to make sure that they bust this union here in California because they know that if they can succeed here, they can succeed in the rest of the country. Therefore, today, as we celebrate the birthday of this great man, Cesar Chavez, I think that the best way that we can honor and celebrate his birthday and honor his memory is to support the workers for whom he gave his life. We are, in this chamber, honored to have present dozens, hundreds of workers who came very far from Fresno to come here. And these workers have taken today off, which means that they're making the sacrifice of being here, of not working, of not getting paid, to put food on their table for their families, because this resolution and this vote is important. because they know how the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco votes will send a very clear message not only to the rest of the state, but to the rest of the country. And if I may, I want to ask a question to the President of the United Farm Workers, who again, they have traveled very far. There was an email that was sent by this corporate entity providing a lot of misinformation, and I want to make sure that we set the record straight. Arturo Rodriguez, who is the President of United Farm Workers, I would like, if the rules allow, the opportunity to ask him a question, to respond and clarify some of the points that were raised in the email that was sent to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, colleagues, can we do this without objection? Without objection?
So if I may ask President Arturo Rodriguez of United Farm Workers to please say a few words in response to the email that was sent by this company. And welcome to San Francisco, Mr. President.
Oh, no problem. Good afternoon, Madam President of the Board of Supervisors here in San Francisco County, and all the members of the supervisors that are here present with us today, and certainly to Supervisor David Campos for introducing the resolution, and the two supervisors that joined with us earlier today with the Grauen Farm Workers. We're very much excited at the fact that you came out and spent a few minutes there with farm workers listening to their stories. You know, we have gone across the state of California, and we're going to other places throughout the nation, really to now talk to folks about the importance of supporting this group of farm workers. At peak, the Grauen Farming Company employs about 5,000 plus farm workers that harvest and comprises the largest tree fruit company in the United States today. As mentioned by Supervisor Campos, we're now looking at a quarter of a century, 25 years ago, when these workers voted to have representation shortly before Cesar Chavez passed away in 1993. And still today, they have not been able to realize that agreement and to implement that agreement because of the refusal of this family to implement the law. So this resolution basically calls on the Grauen Farming Company to do and to take action on behalf of the state California mediator that issued a decision back in 2013, saying that there should be a contract implemented here at this company and setting wages and working conditions to be observed at Grauen Farming Company. That's all we're asking, is let's live by the state of California. We all are subjected to the laws of this state, and we abide by those laws, and we would ask that this employer do the same and to respect the rights of these workers. I know there was lots of comments made and information provided to you that actually is not true. The farm workers right now are making $11 an hour at Grauen Farming Company. They should be making, under the contract, $11.25 an hour. We estimate with our best figures that since the beginning of when this contract should have been implemented, farm workers have lost about $1,800 in wages. When you look at the impact of that in terms of what takes place with thousands of workers, that's somewhere in the millions of dollars of wages that workers have not received. In addition to the protections, in addition to their ability to have a voice on the job, in addition to the working conditions changing and improving at this particular company. So we are very thankful to be here with the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and we're very thankful that you are looking at this particular situation, and we urge your support for these farm workers who bring fruits and vegetables, well, primarily fruits, table grapes, and true fruits to your tables here in San Francisco County. Thank you very much. And si se puede.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam President, I forgot to thank my co-sponsor, Supervisor Avalos, and I will simply end by requesting your support, but also by acknowledging and thanking the workers who have come very far to be here today. Quisiera concluir para agradecer a todos los trabajadores, los campesinos que han venido a esta audiencia. Es un honor estar aquí, tenerlos aquí en San Francisco. Queremos mandar el mensaje que ustedes, los trabajadores, no están solos. La ciudad de San Francisco los apoya. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, can we please have a roll call vote?
On item 17, Supervisor Weiner.
Aye.
Weiner, aye. Supervisor Avalos. Aye. Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Supervisor Christensen.
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. There are 9 ayes.
This resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you all for being here today. Madam Clerk, we're going to skip over our 3 p.m. special order, and we're going to go to roll call for introductions.
First up to introduce new business, Supervisor Weiner.
Thank you for being here. If you could exit the chamber quietly, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. And those of you who are in the overflow room, there is now room in the chamber if you want to come into the chamber.
Okay, Mark. Good. Up.
Okay, Supervisor Weiner.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I have one item for introduction today, and it's an item I wish that we didn't have to introduce. Supervisor Campos is my co-sponsor, and as with the previous item, after all this time, there's still much work to be done. So today, we're introducing a resolution to condemn Indiana State Senate Bill 101, also known as the so-called Religious Freedom Restoration Act. SB 101, which was just signed by the governor of Indiana, Mike Pence, and will take effect July 1st of this year, actively abets and frankly encourages discrimination against LGBT people by codifying the right to refuse service to LGBT people under the guise of religious freedom. The bill allows individuals the unfettered ability to act upon personal animus against LGBT people, so long as they claim that there has been an offense to their religious beliefs if they have to provide a service to LGBT people. This is especially harmful in Indiana, where there are no state laws in place protecting the LGBT community from discrimination. While the Board of Supervisors and we all respect the freedom of religion, that freedom cannot and should not be invoked as a thinly veiled excuse to discriminate against people based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other basis, or to treat them as inferior or less deserving of services. As a result, and since the signing by Governor Pence of SB 101, we have seen an extraordinary outpouring of opposition and condemnation from across the country. Mayor Lee immediately directed all city departments to refrain from any travel to Indiana. Salesforce, which is the largest technology employer in Indiana, and whose CEO Mark Benioff has been a vocal opponent of this law, has banned all employee travel to Indiana and has also indicated that Salesforce at this point will not be expanding in Indiana. Angie's List has frozen an $18.5 million incentive package to add 1,000 jobs over 5 years in Indiana. The NCAA president has issued a statement expressing serious concern over this bill and indicating that the NCAA will review future events for consistency with the values of the NCAA and could imperil future athletic events in the state. Apple CEO Tim Cook wrote a powerful op-ed in the Washington Post denouncing the bill. Eli Lilly, Roche Diagnostics, University of Indiana Health Systems, and Anthem Health, some of the largest employers in Indiana, have condemned the law. AFSCME recently canceled its 2015 Women's Conference in Indiana as a result of this law. And of course, there are the many, many good people of Indiana who are horrified that their state government, which obviously was hijacked by right-wing zealots, could pass this law and really undermine the entire reputation of this state. This resolution will put the Board of Supervisors and the City of San Francisco firmly on record condemning SB 101 as discriminatory and hateful. Additionally, the resolution will ask city departments not to enter into contract with Indiana businesses and to evaluate existing contractual relationships with Indiana businesses to determine if it would be feasible to cancel those contracts. And the legislation will the resolution will encourage private San Francisco-based businesses to refrain from doing business with Indiana, including at conferences and conventions. Colleagues, this is an important statement by this body. We have to keep the momentum going. We know that as we speak, an identical law in Arkansas is making its way from the legislature to Governor Hutchinson's desk. Sadly, we have to make an example of Indiana that if you do this, if you decide that LGBT people are going to be classified as second-class citizens, that there will be consequences because the country is watching. I want to thank Supervisor Cohen, who has also indicated, and Supervisor Farrell for adding themselves as co-sponsors. Colleagues, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you. I'd also like to add myself as a co-sponsor to is it a resolution or ordinance. It's Supervisor Wiener. It's a.
Perhaps we could have all 9 as co-sponsors.
I'm sure we would all sign on for that.
And we can ask Supervisors Moore and Yee in the next week. So all 9. Thank you, colleagues.
And we could maybe urge the Golden State Warriors to not go to Indiana as well. It would be kind of fun to do. So, colleagues, I'm introducing today letters of inquiry to several departments as well a hearing based on the findings of the letters of inquiry related to the suspension of driver's licenses. Much like our legislation banning the box on information about a person's prior involvement with the justice system, on applications for employment and applications for housing, we find that there are real barriers when a person's driver's license is suspended to a person getting employment. And so I want to look at what are the systems we have in place in our different departments in the justice system that actually lead to licenses being suspended, and how we can prevent people, many of whom are very low income, from actually having their driver's license suspended, which would become a real barrier to employment in San Francisco and in many places around the country. Also, when a driver's license is suspended, a person has to pay a lot of money to get that driver's license back. And if you're low income and don't have a job, that presents a real barrier to making positive changes in one's life or finding opportunity where it doesn't exist. There's also recently a report that came out in Ferguson where there was a report. There's 21,000 people who live in Ferguson, and 16,000 of them have outstanding arrest warrants. Most of those are for not paying fines, court fees and court fines. It's just one of the ways that the justice system is set up that keeps people down. And in this case, in Ferguson, probably very many of these people are African American. So we want to look at also other disproportionate communities that are affected disproportionately by the suspension of driver's licenses. So we'll get a lot of that data in our letters of inquiry, and we'll have a report out from these departments when we have our hearing probably later in May. The rest I'll submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Avalos. President Breed.
Thank you. Colleagues, it's very rare that I get really excited about anything at the board chamber, mostly because it's a lot of technical business that we have to take care of, and I'm always so serious and paying very close attention. But today I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I have some visitors, people who I consider my family from the African American Art and Culture Complex. A lot of the young folks, you guys can stand up and just say hi and wave, from programs like Project Level, Talent All-Stars, some of my old kids that are now grown up. You know, I'm so happy to see you all here, and I want to thank Thomas and Big Rich and Stacy and all the grown-ups who helped not only coordinate the kids to come here and to see the work of the Board of Supervisors, where magic happens, where policy gets made, where the city is, you know, pretty much managed. A lot of work goes on at this Board of Supervisors, and I'm happy for them to see the process. But more importantly, I'm really proud of all of them for all the work they continue to do, to be involved in the community, to be involved in programs, to be focused on trying to make sure that they graduate and they get their education and they get good grades and do all of the things that they need to so that they can be successful and they could eventually take over for us here at the Board of Supervisors. So I'm really excited to have them here. Welcome you all to where I now work. I miss you. I miss the Cultural Center. I miss the community. And but just know that I'm here working hard every single day to make sure that the kinds of programs you participate in continue and that you continue to thrive in our neighborhood. So thank you for being here today. And colleagues, the rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. To all of you, we are looking after your old ED. Supervisor Farrell. Supervisor Kim. Not present. Seeing no other names on the roster, Madam President, that concludes the roll call for the introduction of new business.
Okay, and at this time, we will, Madam Clerk, can you please call public comment?
At this time, the public may comment generally for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, to include the minutes and the items on the adoption without reference to committee calendar. Please note that public comment is not allowed on items already subject to public comment. Pursuant to Board Rule 4.22, direct your remarks to the board as a whole, not to individual supervisors, and not to the audience. Speakers using translation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify. And if you would like a document to be displayed on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you'd like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
Okay, first speaker, please.
Now, the question is, does Bishop Cordelleon here in San Francisco or Bishop John MacArthur, also here in California, or Bishops Peter S. Ruckman and Bishop R.C. Sproul there in Florida, do they have the right to say what God says? And Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. You're not all God. You're not God. God is God. And when you die, what Jesus is going to do when he resurrects you is, well, let me shut up and let God speak. Now, Easter is coming up. Millions of us are going to rejoice in the fact that Jesus resurrected from the dead. And Paul used to be so opposed to the Christians that he was the number one enemy, and then he got saved and he wrote half the New Testament. And he said, now, if Christ be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? If there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Christ not risen? And if Christ be not risen, then is our preaching vain, and your faith is also vain. Yea, and we are found false witnesses of God, because we've testified of God that he raised up Christ, whom he raised not up, if the dead rise not. You know, when I pray, my fingers are intertwined like this. And Paul intertwines the resurrection of Jesus with the future resurrection. For if the dead rise not, then is not Christ raised. And if Christ be not raised, your faith is vain. Ye are yet in your sins. That's the problem. Your sins. Okay? Your sins. And you can't make good what God says is evil. Okay? I think of a compromising king named Josiah. He tore the houses of the Sodomites down. King Asa and King Jehoshaphat. He deported them. You know, if somebody ran for office and said, I promise to deport all the homosexuals or tear their houses down, you know, the media would just jump all over them. But the Bible commended them for that. It really did. Now, God will forgive you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisor. From Scott Wiener to Julie Christensen, from Mr. Supervisor Mark Fowle to John Navarro. Good morning. Good afternoon. This last person spoke about God's mighty saying. I think one of the most important God's mighty saying would be, God once said, see, for persons, acquisition of such personal things like being wealthy, being noble, having credible fame, will be just something the person's body and heart in desire, which is not the holy way. For the holy way is actually the righteousness of a person's emotional content, of one's wisdom and destiny. But of such personal need like food, clothing, and holiness require for human works of farming, agriculture, representation of missionary holiness. To bring all in good unity of politics, holy study, educational pathway, of scientific, philosophical study, back to holy doorway, extend the 4C of a continuous mission to the endless world of people, require all lots of a missionary pathway of daily engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Members of the Board of Supervisors, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. What you see here on the screen right now is my appointment as a first-class petty officer in the United States Navy. I was proud to do 12 years as a member of the United States Navy. This is my submarine qualification certificate. The duty I had is considered by many to be very arduous duty. And I'm not going to belabor the point, just to say I'm a veteran. And here we have all the times, 19 times, where the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force has ruled that various representatives of city government have violated my rights to free speech, to have that speech expressed accurately in the official records of the meetings, public meetings, and also to deny me access to public records, which I needed in order to make educated and lucid comments in the public sector. In particular, the Library Commission has gotten a lot of other people involved in their ability to suppress public comment. I would like to ask this Board of Supervisors when I could expect representatives of this city government to recognize my rights under the law. As a citizen and a veteran, I find particularly disturbing the pattern throughout city government of disregard for open government policy. I filed an IDR with 10 members of this Board of Supervisors week before last, and only 5 attempted to fulfill their responsibilities under the law. Board President Breed, along with Supervisors Campos, Mars, and Yee, have failed to respond in any way. Don't they know the requirements under the law? Supervisor Peril, who has already been held to be violated the ordinance previously, has again refused to respond in any way. I hope he won't send the same aide who attended last hearing. Besides acting all offended that she had to be there, all she could complain about was her child care
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. I didn't want to use a religious one in my assignment. I would like to extend my condolences to Officer Michael Johnson's wife and to the Dunham family. For the San Jose Police Department, I know it doesn't feel like you lost a police officer, but the death of a family member. Mr. Scott Dunham didn't just take the life of a police officer, but took a provider, protector, and the world away from a loving wife, and brought shame to the Dunham family. We cannot see in the future or through pitfalls. It's hard to smile through all this triumph. The dawn is a silent witness. No one can see through dark clouds. The heart can never be totally right if the head is totally wrong. To Ms. Johnson, words are not going to wash away the hurt you're feeling. There's nothing in the pharmacy that can comfort you. You won't be able to hear, "I'm not hungry. I just want to rest." Officer Michael Johnson walked in the shadow of death with courage. He's gone to a place far beyond the stars, where Officer Michael Johnson can leave his utility belt at the stairway. You know, one day, we got to leave this world. Even if we want to stay, our job won't permit us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, President Breed and other victims of the cabal. My name is Christopher Dahl, and I live at 6th and Howard, 14 meters and 10 blocks from sea level. I rise to comment on the eternal conflict between pedestrian and driver. The drivers are winning, members. One of you noted last week that only one person was killed by traffic so far this year in our beloved city and county. It was also noted that about 3 persons a day have been hit but not killed by traffic so far this year. That means, members, 3 persons a day are merely mangled, simply scraped, or basically bashed instead of being killed. You will have to ask the mangled, scraped, and bashed if this is a good enough deal. Remember, members, trauma is forever. Or, members, are you going to lift your eyes from your fundraising schedules and realize that 21st century technologies offer you a 21st century opportunity to eliminate the mangling, the scraping, the bashing, and the killing? That technology gives you the capacity, if you choose to use it, to watch every single vehicle on the streets, to witness all traffic actions that the drivers attempt, and finally, to hold all violators at all levels of transgression accountable. So, members, who's winning this conflict? Who is stopping your Vision Zero project, your dream, your vision of 0 pedestrian deaths from becoming real? It looks like the score is Mangle Scrape Bash 180 to Vision 0 in the playoffs. And in the big game, it's Death 1, Vision 0. Thank you, President Breed.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Doug Horning, and I've been a driver guide since 1992 in San Francisco, and I'm here fighting for my job. I agree that traffic safety is paramount, and I think people in my profession actually are some of the safest drivers out there. I also feel that when we talk about human impact, we need to talk about the human impact on a variety of different people in the tour industry, what it's going to mean to ban driver guides in San Francisco.
Oh, sir, I'm sorry. You're speaking about an item that has been on our agenda, and unfortunately, you can't comment about that item during general public comment.
It's kind of interesting because the gentleman just before me was speaking to the same issue. Why couldn't I speak to it now?
Sir, this is public comment, not public question and answer, and so at this time, you would need to focus on a subject matter that isn't related to an item on our agenda.
Could I make one more sentence? Let me say one more thing. What you need to do is consider the opinions and experiences of San Francisco's driver guides. Many of them would be willing to testify here before you make such a decision. I implore you to do that. We will be back.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, members of the board and the general public. My name is Arthur Lemke, born and raised in San Francisco, and I'm here to say that the taking over of San Francisco by Silicon Valley is ridiculous. There's Google buses everywhere. There's over anywhere from 10 to 16 to 20,000 TNCs on a Friday and Saturday night, not counting cabs. It's a race to the bottom for these people to make a living. The cab industry has paid the city of San Francisco $30 million every year for the last 5 years. The TNCs give nothing to San Francisco but foul air. It's amazing to me that you and the city fathers and the mayor are allowing this to happen. I'd just like to say that the amount of people, when the TNCs, the first part of when they are the number one, when they're looking for the is the most dangerous part of the driving, they are uninsured. There's been many cases that like Uber and other things do not pay the insurance when this happens. You can call any insurance company. They do not insure the TNCs. It's incredible. And the mayor knew when this first came from the PUC that there was no insurance. The mayor of San Francisco and the mayor of LA, and they allowed this. They are going to be people killed and injured in San Francisco on kind of the overflow of drivers trying to make a living. And I believe the blood will be on the hands of the mayor and the city fathers. You have to control the amount of TNCs and cabs in the city. This is insane what's going on now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcelo Fonseca. I've lived in San Francisco for 31 years, and I've been driving a taxi full-time with Yellow Cab for almost 27 years. I'm here to remind this board that the San Francisco taxi industry is a city asset. It's not okay for Mayor Lee and the city of San Francisco to support and facilitate unfair competition. At the same time, they charge $250,000 per taxi medallion. Supervisor Winter, I'd like to address to you, shortly after Sophia Liu was killed by an UberX driver, you went on a KTVU interview and you called the taxi industry broken. You also mentioned we cab drivers would like to have Uber killed. I don't mind competition at all, as long as it is fair, and they are not fair competition. They're eating my lunch, and very soon they'll eat your lunch. They're taking Muni rides with those vans. They also have predatory pricing. How can you afford, as a taxi driver, to drive someone all the way across the city for $7? Uber is doing that, the carpool. That's not fair. We carry $1 million commercial liability. That alone will stop me from offering such a low ride. The streets of San Francisco are not safe at all. If you can't see that, you're not driving in San Francisco. And Ms. Breed, I am in your district. I wrote you a letter in case your office did not route it to you. It's to Governor Jerry Brown and Mayor Lee regarding the CPUC's jurisdiction over TNCs. I'd like to hand it to you again, just in case you haven't got it.
Thank you very much.
And that's all I have to say. Thank you for looking into the matter.
The clerk will retrieve the letter. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name's Robert Chizana, and I too am a cab driver. Unfortunately, this city has decided it doesn't want taxis anymore. And this is a very dangerous thing for you to do, because you have to realize the day there are no taxis, and this is coming very soon. Don't think you are going to have a few years to think about it. I predict within the next year or 18 months, the entire taxi industry will collapse. And this will really lead to a very interesting situation, because there is no price control on Uber. At present, with their billions of dollars, they are subsidizing drivers who take rides. Unfortunately, this is completely illegal by all the PUC regulations, which incidentally our mayor did endorse, saying he did not want jurisdiction of TNCs for the city. This is a tragic mistake, because the day that there are no taxis, do you think the TNCs are even going to consider taxis rates? They're going to be sky high, and taxis will never come back.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Okay, I'll skip over this. Okay, there's a lot of Chinese residents in District 11. They can't even handle English. But my supervisor wants to handle the meetings in Spanish. I have a problem with that. He said, well, you know what? The U.S. took the land during the Mexican-American War, and Spanish is the language of this country. And if you believe how great white people, Christianity, and the English languages, then I'm happy to take you off the email list. Signed, John Avalos. Well, my nationality is Sioux Indian, German, Irish, Canadian French, Austrian, and Russian, if there's any misunderstanding. And I'm a Catholic, proud of it. I have a problem with gay people not being able to get married federally. It should be a federal law. They should be able to get married, have their insurance pay for the sex change operation, and have the same freedoms the rest of us have. And if you want to have an abortion, go for it. And I am a Roman Catholic and proud of it and proud to be an American.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Board of Supervisors, particularly Supervisor Weiner, I'm sorry. On March 7th, 2015, you wrote an op-ed supporting the commuter shuttle program and fair pay for its drivers. You said, among other things, that that program has proven a great way to keep cars off our streets.
Madam President, excuse me for one moment. I just want to state that many members of the public have mentioned individual supervisors' names, and public comment is not towards individual supervisors, but please keep your comments generally to the full board as a whole.
Sorry, thank you.
I will run your time now.
Right. And it said that reduce overall greenhouse gas footprint and reducing cars, people getting to work that they would otherwise own. You talked about the bus drivers and wanting to do something for them, providing good wages and benefits. So what I want to ask you is, what's the impact environmentally of 4,000 to 6,000 Uber vehicles per day, Uber and Lyft vehicles, those kinds of vehicles per day on the streets? There are 1,900 cabs. As people have pointed out, you can have as many of these other vehicles as you want. What's the advantage? Well, cabs at least are required, because they're required by the city of San Francisco, to have either hybrid vehicles or to have natural gas vehicles. These other vehicles have no restrictions, as people have pointed out. And you might say, well, I know, but we can't do anything because that's regulated by the state. And you're right. That's regulated by the state. But where were you in 2013 when Uber and Lyft went out on the streets? We heard not a peep from you. We heard not a peep from the mayor, of course, who we know is in some people's pockets. And what happened and that was even declared a misdemeanor for those to go out. And who jumps in? Not the city, of course, or the supervisors even raising the issue, but the Cal Public Utilities Commission, headed by Mr. Peavy, who we know is very good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Madam President, supervisors, departments, people, I'm Thomas Robert Simpson, and I'd like to thank you for the very warm welcome you gave to the special visitors that we have from the Western Addition. I'm here to say that I think it's really important that a number of youth are here who live within 5 or 6 blocks, maybe 8 blocks, who've never been to this chamber. My hope and my wish is that they will get a click or an inspiration or something within them that says, oh, there's an African American who used to live in my neighborhood who's the president of this chamber. Oh, there's another African American woman from the other part of town who's a part of this chamber. There's a gay, lanky white man who's a part of this chamber. That they might say, oh, there's a possibility that I might one day be a part of this chamber. So I welcome your welcome for us. Hope I didn't put you on the spot too much. One person who you didn't mention was Angela Morrison, who's also a part of bringing the youth here. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for your inspiration. And hopefully one day one of the youth behind me will take your position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Dana Rose. I work in disease prevention. I've talked about the high rates of breast cancer in the Bay Area and in Marin County in particular. Marin County was believed to have the highest rates of breast cancer in the world. Yeah. Oh, thank you. This book came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It says, Marin County, a beautifully landscaped suburb just breast cancer in the world. I've talked about how synthetic estrogen in the form of hormone replacement therapy played a major role in half the cases of breast cancer in Marin. I go to Marin frequently and I talk about, one, their high rates of breast cancer, the huge role synthetic estrogen played, and the prevention of cancer and other diseases. Here are some of the research showing that synthetic estrogen was strongly suspected to be carcinogenic for decades. Here is from the I don't have the study, but it is from Journal of National Cancer Institute in 1940. Hugh Grady, Michael carcinogenity, synthetic estrogens, laboratory animals that have similar patterns.
Sir, please speak into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Was established in historic experiments. Here's one, a review of the evidence by Saul Gusberg in 1977, estrogen cancer.
Sir, your time is up. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call our 3 p.m.
Madam President, Mr. Gilberti.
Yes.
Supervisors, thank you. Tom Gilberti. 7 years ago, this month is ending our Women's Month, so we'll give a shout out. 7 years ago, my first public speaking planning commission, Eastern Neighborhood noise, the continuous 24-hour noise that was being built, new construction, remodels were creating 55 decibels, 45 decibels, continuous noise in your apartment. And I was attending packed meetings at the Planning Commission, properties, livelihoods, rezoning, and Christian Alage was the president. Her last day here as a supervisor, it was mentioned the perfect storm, what I considered the mayor's foolish brouhaha over Ross Maccarini. Some of the feminist ranting was, I thought, shrilly. Christina Alage voted here, what I think, correctly. Political sport. Yeah. He was not a member of the Lee Democratic Association or club or cabal. Ross won, Christina lost. At that last session, there was also a little statement said, they were surprised Christina was able to step right into the spot of being a supervisor, but she was the president of a very dynamic situation, the Eastern Neighborhoods class, and she presided. And I want to give a shout out to her as the end of Women's Shout Out Month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members who'd like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Madam Clerk, can we please go to our 3 p.m. special order?
Items 18 through 21 comprise the special order at 3 p.m. for a public hearing of persons interested in the January 8, 2015 Planning Department's issuance of a community plan exemption for the proposed project at 340 Bryant Street, exempting the project from further environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act. Items 19 through 21 are the motions affirming or reversing the department's exemption determination and the preparation of findings.
So it's my understanding that the appellants have asked for continuance for 1 week to our meeting of April 7th. And I know that since we have provided this item on the agenda, we will need to at least take public comment. So I will open it up to public comment. If there are any members of the public who'd like to comment on this item at this time, please come forward. Seeing none, public comment is closed. And I'll entertain a motion for continuance of this item. So moved by Supervisor Kim, seconded by Supervisor Avalos. Without objection, this item is continued to our April 7th meeting next week. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item?
Items 24 through 27 are being considered for immediate adoption without committee reference. A single roll call vote may enact these items. If a member objects, a matter can be removed and considered separately.
Okay, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Actually, I'd like to, colleagues, well, both of these items are related to designations for priority conservation areas. And speaking with Supervisor Marr's office, I'm talking about items 25 and 26. I'd like to sever them.
Okay.
And the reasons why that Supervisor Marr has asked that we requested that we send both these items back to committee. I'd like to make that motion that we refer the items 24 and 25. Excuse me.
Okay, so we will do that shortly.
26.
Okay,
Thank
Supervisor Cohen. So you want to remove items 25 and 26, and we can take those up after we adopt the rest of the items.
Thank you.
Okay. So on the remaining items, items number 24 and 27, can we have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
On items 24 and 27, Supervisor Wiener. Wiener, aye. Supervisor Avalos.
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. Supervisor Christensen.
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. There are 9 ayes.
Okay, item numbers 24 and 27 passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 25?
Item 25 is a resolution to support the designation of the San Francisco Bay Water Trail as a priority conservation area by the Association of Bay Area Governments. And item 26 as well, Madam President?
Yes.
Item 26, a resolution to authorize the nomination of 4 new priority conservation areas: Paloux Phelps Natural Area, the Bayview Hill Natural Area, the Green Connections McLaren Park Pivot, and Crosstown Trail connecting Twin Peaks Bioregion Glen Canyon.
Supervisor Cohen.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to entertain a motion, or make a motion, excuse me, to move both these items to the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
Okay, Supervisor Cohen has made a motion to move items number 25 and 26 to the Land Use Committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Christensen. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, these are moved to the Land Use Committee. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item?
Madam President, in memoriams would be next. However, there were no in memoriams introduced.
Okay, colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before us?
That concludes our business for today, Madam President.
We are adjourned. Thank you.